Okay, now we're going to reinstall the rear bumper on a 2003 Ferrari 360 Spider. We're going to push these bushings in because they'll fall out on all 8 locations. Just push them in and we'll push them in later. Same on this side. And then when we align the bumper up, we're going to line here, the 4 pins, and then we're going to remember to hook our license plate light up. Okay, now that we have installed the bumper on the car, like I said before, while installing it, you want to connect the connector here for the license plate light before you install it. So while you're installing, have somebody connect that, and then slide it on. Be careful. Slide it on, and then what you want to do is, once you get it on, I installed the side plates here just loosely. These 2 nuts right here I installed hand tight, and then there's a lot of slop still in there. It's still loose. Okay, so then, and also I did the same thing on the other side, and then I put like a piece of paper or cardboard in between here, kind of try to hold myself a gap here, a temporary gap, and also it keeps the paint from rubbing at the same time. So I installed those temporarily, and then as you can see, you got your bushings here and then your studs sticking out. So I installed the plate on the left here, so when I try to shove the bushings on, I'm not going to push the bumper off. So don't forget to do that, because if you try to put the bushings in there, you could potentially slide the bumper back off onto the ground. So why don't I go and install all the bushings all around, and then I'll continue the video. Okay, now I've got all 4 bolts here started now, and the bushings installed. As you can see, like, so you might have to wiggle the bumper around to get the bushings installed, and then I just loosely installed the nuts. Same thing over here, these are still loose. And then on the other side, the same thing. Install your connectors for your side marker lights at this point. So I did that. Now I'm going to slowly tighten both sides up, and then while I'm doing that, when it gets close to being tight, I'm going to recheck my gaps here. Like I said, I've got my piece of cardboard in here kind of holding the gap right now. As you can see, it's pretty equal all the way around. So you can see it's got a nice gap all the way around. So as you tighten it up, just keep an eye on that, and then adjust as needed. Okay, now that I have the bumper installed, what I did with the 4 mounting points in here is while tightening the last few centimeters of thread, I adjusted the gap on the outside where I wanted it, up and down, and then I snugged one of the bolts, preferably the outboard lower one here. It's easiest to get to, and then snugged it up while kind of working with the gap on the outside of the bumper. Okay, now after I got where I wanted the gap, I tightened the remaining 3 nuts, okay, and then the same on the other side. So now I have the desired gap back here, and I still have my shim in here, okay, and it's pretty consistent. The gap's pretty consistent along the back here, okay. Same thing over here. And then what I'm going to do now is the two outer mount points, you can adjust the fair of this in or out. Okay, you can see how that wiggles. So you adjust, tighten those, put this where you want, in or out, you know, flush it up, and then secure these two bolts on the inside. And then once them are secure, you should be able to pull out your shim. Okay, now that I have all the attaching hardware secure, I tighten these two outer attach points while adjusting my gap, and then tighten these four attach points on this side, and then the same on the other, identical on the other side. Now I'm ready to install the inner fender well on both sides, and then reinstall the wheels. And then once we get the wheels installed, we're going to install the belly pan. All right, now I have the inner fender wells installed on both sides. Like I said here, we got four places where there's hardware. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 spots. You need to install screws, and then be careful. Like I said with this before, this thing here is very fragile, and you could break these louvers. And then, like I said, just make sure you get this outer edge tucked in there nice and neat, and then behind the clip here on the bottom. Okay, make sure the clip is behind this piece. So other than that, we'll install the belly pan next, and then that should complete the reinstall of the rear bumper. All right, everyone, I've installed the screws on the bottom now that tie the belly pan to the rear bumper. Like I said, there's 2 here. Two over here on the other side. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 2 bolts, one up there and one on this side here. And that should tie in the belly pan to the rear bumper, and that should complete the installation of the rear bumper on a Ferrari 360.